Well, last time I have asked what determines interest rate if it's not determined by the profit rate of the overall economy, and the answer was basically it was determined by the demand and supply for the money capital or monetary funds, basically. Well, taking if we take into account that for some at least borrowers, money is not used as capital. Um, and in that sense, actually, Marxian economics is just using the demand and supply model. Um, well, when we interest rate is actually in case of Marxian economics, and we have seen in the overall model, it is actually a reduction of the costs, basically costs of keeping the capital idle. So it is a function in the economic system, but the way interest rate behaves at the time of a typical cycle is also an example of how the more complex elements of the economic system are working very much with the overall tendencies of the system, and they are usually not able to turn or even soften the major trends in the economic system. At least not the crisis event. I mean, as you have seen, according to Marx, basically the economic system creates periodic crises, and basically crises themselves are actually able to repair part of the problems within the economic system. So let's see how interest rate behaves during a cycle. Well, at the very start of the cycle, when the boom will just start, boom starts after economic stagnation. So economic stagnation had kept the demand for credit low, and we might assume that people will begin to trust to the financial system more, so they will bring their money more to the financial system, which increases supply of credit. So sales and investments are low since people don't trust yet to the economic system. They don't think that the investments will pay off. Will pay off. So that's the starting point. I mean, and since demand of credit is low, supply of credit is high. Because sales and investments are low, people demand less money. That means the interest rate is also low, and profit rates, as interest rate is low, the people who are actually investing are able to get high profit rates. Of course, there are other elements that increase the profit rates at the starting point of a boom, but we are not mentioning it. You have seen it in the previous lectures. Now let's just focus on the interest rate. So as boom progresses, rising profit rates will increase the sales and investments, and as they increase, well, some people have their own money. They will take their money out of the bank. That which will decrease supply of credit to some extent, but more it will be also common. Many of them will basically just take credit from the bank, so demand for credit will start to increase. Well, supply of credit might increase because of the kind of money multiplier effect. Well, people who spend money might bring their money back to the bank, and then money will spend more, and then money will be bring back to the bank. So that's one factor which might be increase the supply of credit, the money multiplier effect. Basically, as sales increase, more people start to get income, and the people who have this, extra income will also bring their money to the bank, and that will increase supply of credit. How this actually functions is something you might study under money multiplier concept. But at a certain point, supply of credit will start to decrease because more people will take their money out of the banks to make investments basically, and both interest rates. So the increase in the overall sales will continue to increase the profit rate because people sell more. Realization rate will increase. This will increase the profits, but interest rate will also start to increase. So financial system will kind of take a larger and larger quantity of money capital out of the profit, basically. So, well, this is a side effect. I mean, the at good times we have studied already Minsky. Many people will just take money from the banks to invest in stock exchange market just because the price of the stocks increase. But when you invest in price on stocks, of course, the higher price of stocks might help to some extent to the company, but you yourself are not actually investing into productive something productive. Well, just because prices increase doesn't mean that the company has become more productive. And at a certain point in capitalist system, according to but we have seen also Minsky, but also previous economists like Hilferding have mentioned that just because the prices of the stocks increase doesn't mean that they become more productive. And at a certain point in the boom, the increase in prices will become faster than increase in productivity of the companies. Increasing price of the stock of the companies will be faster than increasing productivity of the companies. So kind of the people who invest in stock exchange will get profits, but those profits are kind of when you think economy-wide, illusionary increases in the profit rates, because I mean those profits only increase as long as people continue to believe the prices of the stocks will increase forever. If at any moment, even before the boom ends, people believe that the prices of stocks will not continue to increase, people will just panic sell the stocks, and suddenly majority of the people will have losses basically. So majority of the people who invest in the stocks at any time will not have profit anyway, if as long as we can say as long as the price increases or the increase in price of stocks is not accompanied by an increase in productivity of the company. Well, how does the crisis start? It starts at the point when potential profits are low. Why potential profits are low? We have seen various reasons. First, the realization effect will be smaller at the time, and then because of the decrease in the reserve army, we will have relatively large wage rate, which will create a squeeze of profit. Also, interest rate will be high, as we have seen it has increased, and it also contributes in decreasing profits. At certain point, basically, the profits will be very low, and people will get more and more debted, and that will be an instant, and you have seen it in recent, 2008 crisis, if you remember it. Many companies, in some cases, some big companies, declare that they are not able to pay their debts, and that will create more suspicion that even more companies, are at the same position, especially small ones and medium ones, but also large ones. And as more and more companies are not able to pay their debt, they will demand more money from the financial system. So demand for credit will increase drastically because those companies, the trust to them will go down, and they need to now close their debts immediately. Otherwise, people will not invest in those companies. This drastic increase in demand of credit will increase the interest rate even more, and it's more from the profits. At the time when the profit rate is already low and already is creating a crisis, financial system actually creates another drastic decrease in the profit rate. Um, and as companies start to fail to pay their debts, they go bankrupt. So banks don't end up not getting their money back. So they need to pay to their creditors, the people who have loaned their money to the bank, but they don't have money. So now the banks demand credit from. I mean, they need people to put their money into the bank. So banks start to increase the interest rate to even higher amounts, so that people will come to bank and put their money into the bank. So interest rate will got even more higher. But at this time, trust to the bank will also be low. So banks starts to get bankrupt, and that will decrease supply of money, and basically, as long as the companies continue to struggle to survive, they will demand funds. As long as banks continue their struggle to survive, they will also demand funds, and that will keep the interest rate very high, at very high level. At some point, many of the banks and companies will basically go bankrupt. The remaining banks will maybe they will get I mean buy the surviving banks and sell them at short. I mean, sell their buildings, sell their assets, and get some reserves which allow them to survive. Same thing for the companies. I mean, they might get some reserves that might allow them to survive, but companies basically stop investing, and banks basically stop lending money. And since no one wants to invest, or even as long as they well, as long as they are I mean, besides what they strictly need, no one wants to buy anything. Basically, uh, the interest rate is low. So because demand for funds starts to go down, and this will decrease the interest rate to very low points. Of course, some people are out of jobs, but they are poor people basically. I mean, they don't have any guarantee, and banks don't lend them anyway. They might survive on charity or family circles, social safety through social safety net. Other people who have jobs, they might not take risk and get a loan, because they might not be able to pay back the loan. They have the fear of possibility of losing job, so that keep the interest rate low. But as interest rate gets low, this creates a new opportunity, and also the reserve army size of reserve army will be high, which also decreases the wage and creates an opportunity for a potential new boom. Um, Basically, on throughout all this story, you see that interest rate actually, interest rate increased throughout the cycle, and throughout the cycle, financial system is not relieving this crisis, but it's actually contribute to this crisis, and the continuous increase in interest rate is only remedied by the depression, and depression is the thing that brings the interest rate as well as the wage rate back down, which allow a new boom to start. Um, so bottom line is, in a way, bottom line is financial system is useful for the capitalist system, but it is part of the system, and as being part of the system, it is also part of the part of the mechanisms that are creating systemic problems of the capitalism, including but not limited to the economic crisis. So that's the end of this lecture. I hope all of you will stay healthy, and I also hope all of at least many of you have enjoyed this lecture. See you in the next lecture.